What's up, guys? My name is Josh, and normally I do Q&A Sundays, with coffee, stuff like that. And this weekend, I'm actually going to have family in town, so I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'm pre-recording this. It'll be released Sunday. And today's topic is actually going to be buying/trading used gear and my experience with it and what I recommend doing if you're considering it. So in my time of doing the YouTube thing and since really always, I've really liked to buy and sell used gear. I've had mostly good experiences with it, a few bad ones here and there, but if you buy and sell enough, it's just kind of a game of statistics. So, and through it, I've gotten less and less, let's call it screwed over, or didn't get exactly what I was expecting as I've learned to look out for certain things. I'm by no means an expert. I'm just talking about my experience, and that's really it. And I've written down a few things that I tend to look out for in recommendations that I make. And the quick answer to the question, is buying used gear a bad idea? No, not really. It's a great way to save money, and a lot of the times you can get a product that is basically new at a fraction of the cost, maybe like 80% if it's like in really, really good condition. Sometimes, depending on the product and how saturated the market is with it, that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. If you look at like HC 600s, right? If you look at the 600 to 650, there's so many for sale that they actually go for pretty cheap. But then there's other things that have a lot for sale, like there's a lot of shit products that you can see for sale, and they tend to maintain their value really well. I've noticed that amps and DACs stay pretty close to the original price in pristine condition. And headphones, not so much. They do tend to degrade in price if they're used. But that's really going to go case by case and isn't going to be exactly like, every amplifier, every headphone is going to be different. So I've bought a number of used amplifiers. I've traded a number of things. I've bought a number of used headphones as well. And here are a couple things that I look at, and I'd love to know if you have any tips or recommendations. I'd love for you to leave it in the comment section down below and let other people and me know what you look for, and I might pay attention to it next time. That might help me out. Now, the first rule is to always listen to it if you can. This is why I recommend like going to local sites first. A really big trading and selling app in Washington here is an app called OfferUp. And basically they provide like you put pictures up and then people can ask you questions. You can set locations to meet, and they provide a messaging service, and it's all on the app. So you don't have to give out your phone number, your email, your whatever, and it's all pretty much handled there, and you can rate buyers so you can see people with good ratings and bad ratings. So I recommend using sites like that first, because it is kind of like Craigslist, and Craigslist is another one what I recommend, where it's local and you have a better chance of meeting up, listening to the product, checking it out before you buy it, because pictures can be very, very deceiving. As somebody who's a pretty good photographer, I can tell you that I can make a picture look like an amateur shot and still hide flaws, or I can make it look like a professional shot and still hide flaws. If I really wanted to deceive people, it's actually pretty easy to do, especially with Photoshop. Getting it in real life is going to be a lot safer. You're also going to be able to listen to it, see if it's even something that you're interested in, because you may try it and you may just not like it. Simple as that. So rule number 2 is going to be, I always check the connection points and the joint points. So like pads are replaceable. Pads, they may have worn down pads or whatever. Some degrade faster than others. Some last very, very long. Some only last like 6 months before they start to degrade quite a bit. So pads are replaceable, so I wouldn't focus too much on the quality of the pads. Pads are pretty cheap, but I would focus on the quality of the connector, especially the cable input. The cable itself can be in crappy condition because, again, easily and cheaply replaceable for most parts, but the input is something that is not easily or cheaply replaceable. And I also want you to pay attention to the hinges or any kind of mechanism where you have any sort of movement within the headphone. Look for stress points, any sort of fractures or breaks, or if it's a plastic device, that stress point will usually turn white. We've all seen that where plastic starts to bend and it turns white at the really like high torque area. And so look for that sort of stuff. Generally with a well-engineered product, they pretty much reinforce those points. So if you're talking about a product that has a stress fracture in those areas to begin with, then it may have been somewhat abused, as well as the connection points. I think we've all seen it in videos where people are like jamming connectors in and they're just super rough with their gear. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of the times those connectors are held in with a screw, but a large portion of the time they're also held in with some sort of adhesive or glue, and they're not always the most secure, and if you're jamming them in as hard as you can, you're gonna damage that port. So you can check for scratches, you can check for position. I also check around the screw areas and the screws themselves to make sure that, you know, if it's been open once or twice, you can usually see a little bit of scuffing. That's not really that big of a deal. But if it looks like it's been constantly opened and closed, the more times you open and close and open a system in general, the more likely you are to damage something internally. And that's definitely something that you want to avoid buying into. And the last rule is really just going to be patience. My NFB1 amp, like the person that I bought that from, he offered it, and I took a day to think about it, make sure it was really what I wanted, and I wasn't just jumping on what I presumed was a good deal and you know, a big amp. I really thought about it and made sure that's what I wanted. But if I hadn't already known the guy, I probably would have taken a little bit longer to think about it, because it is a big purchase, because even buying used, it was still very expensive, at least for me. But since I have an ongoing relationship with the guy and he sends me lots of gear to review and it's always in really good condition, then I can, you know, recognize he's a reliable source, basically. But, you know, with an average guy off of some site like Headfi or eBay or Craigslist or OfferUp, you don't really have that kind of built up relationship with people, and you don't know if they're trying to just make a quick buck off of a product that's broken, or if they actually genuinely take really good care of their products. Because if there's somebody like me, I just take really good care of my gear, because I know that I'm going to be turning it over eventually and buying new stuff, and I don't want it to look like shit when I go out there. So hopefully you run across somebody like me who's not going to sell a broken product, who's not going to sell you a product that's been shittily taken care of. But you can't always guarantee or wish for that, and you have to be a little bit precautious. So what's the deal if you can't go and see a product in person? Generally, what I recommend is asking for more pictures and seeing why they're selling it. But this goes into that whole patience thing. If they're not willing to send you pictures, especially if it's a higher end item, there's probably something wrong. And at that point, I recommend pretty much just moving on. It's really easy to just pick up a phone and go click, 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 you know, take a couple pictures, especially if you ask for specifics, which is what I recommend, like taking pictures of the connectors, taking pictures of the joints, stuff like that. If they know how to sell things, they should include that, just for transparency's sake, because the more pictures you have, the higher chances of selling it you have. It basically just gives people confidence that you gave them an upfront representation of what this product is. And I've noticed that people tend to respect that a little bit better. And then the reason why they're selling. So this one it's kind of loose in terms of like how effective it is, because there's some people who just don't care to give you a reason, and they're not obligated to, honestly. But it's nice to have, and it's something that I definitely look for. I mean, the more people talk in their description, you kind of get a feeling for like, okay, like, are you trying to just hawk this product off, or are you genuinely like invested in selling this product? Because there tends to be like three sorts of descriptions that you get. Just really quick and brief. And sometimes I do that for like really cheap products. It's just like, this is what it is, good condition, buy it, hope you like it, right? And then there's like kind of what I do for most of my products is I give like a very detailed description. This is everything that's good with it. This is everything that's wrong with it. If there's anything, any minor ding at all, especially if it's in pristine condition otherwise, and there's like one small scratch, I'll generally point that out. And then the reason why I'm selling it, you know, I'm selling this to get more gear, I'm open to trades, stuff like that. And then there's the third type of description, which is just like oversaturation of like really recommending the product, of being like, oh, it's great, like I love this amp, I love this headphone, excellent condition, you won't find a better deal. Stuff like that, that's a huge red flag to me, and I won't even really talk to the person if they have something like that, just because they may be a very complimentary person. Now, this is just my experience, but every time I've actually gone and seen a product and made an offer on a product that had a description like that, they have always had something wrong that wasn't in the description. Like the left channel volume is significantly lower than the right channel or something like that. It was just kind of like an obvious front, and basically hoping that you didn't notice when you went to purchase it. General wrap up is just like, trust your gut on this. Like don't try and get an absolute great deal. Even if you can get a product for 5-10% less, I would spend the extra money on a product that gives you the confidence in buying it. They have pictures of all the angles, all the ports, any damage whatsoever. I mean, when you're buying used gear, we all know how used gear is. Like 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be in absolute perfect condition, and that's part of getting it at a lower cost. Is like you're buying a used product. It was used. That's kind of the deal with it. But at the same time, you can still get really, really good deals. And I've noticed that a lot of people in this hobby do tend to take pretty good care of their stuff. And that's this hobby specifically. I've also noticed that gaming mice tend to be pretty well taken care of. Camera gear tends to be pretty well taken care of, but it's case by case. There's no hard and fast rule for everything. So just go at it with a sense of patience, know what you're looking for, know what you're willing to settle for, know what you're willing to spend, and don't be afraid to ask for pictures or ask questions about the product. If they don't tell you why are they selling it, ask why they're selling it. Yeah, so I hope this helped anybody. If you've never bought used gear or if you had bad experiences with gear, I'd love to know in the comment section down below. Regular reviews are going to be coming tomorrow, Monday. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.